All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're exploring the seriously blood-soaked, rain-drenched lore of the fallen kingdom of Yuraksha. We're looking at a story that just beautifully and honestly brutally blends political betrayal, ancient mythology, and a super dark romance. It's basically a masterclass in how fantasy horror can use terrifying monsters to explore these deeply human tragedies. So, picture this. It's pouring rain, and we kick things off with a totally terrifying, escalating crisis. 37. 37 bodies found this year alone, and every single one is missing its heart. The kingdom of Araksha, which used to be this rich, powerful place, is literally rotting in darkness. People are just vanishing every full moon, travelers are turning up dead with these unnerving, creepy smiles on their faces. And ruling over all this nightmare, King Virenda. But the thing is, he's a monarch already completely hollowed out by grief after the death of his queen. He just doesn't fear death anymore, which, sets him up perfectly for what comes next. When the grieving king rides out alone into the midnight woods to face whatever monster is doing this, he doesn't get a roar or a screech. He gets this haunting question from a silver-haired woman. She is ancient, she's lethal, and she's honestly just deeply confused by his complete lack of fear. So instead of going in for the kill immediately, she pauses. She's intrigued by this totally broken man standing right in front of her. Now, to really grasp this story, we have to understand what exactly he's standing in front of. We're talking about a Yakshini, half spirit, half demon, an immortal creature cursed to wander the forests, feeding on human souls to survive. In this world's lore, a Yakshini isn't just some mindless beast. She's a deeply tragic, immortal predator. She draws men in through their own desire, drives them totally mad, and then just takes their hearts. She is absolutely as beautiful as she is lethal. But here is where the story throws us a massive curveball. The monster spares the king. Instead of claiming his soul, she drops this psychological bombshell that just shatters everything he thought he knew. She tells him his beloved queen was actually murdered. She uses her supernatural insight not to rip him apart, but to point him toward the real monsters hiding right inside his own palace. Fueled by this crazy revelation, the king goes back and violently interrogates his royal priest, unearthing Prime Minister Rudrasen's cold, calculated path of treason. And man, it is a long con power grab that was brewing right under his nose the whole time. The Prime Minister secretly poisoned the queen, forced the temple priests into silence by literally threatening to slaughter them, and then just waited. He waited for Virendra to be so consumed by grief that he would break, allowing the PM to easily seize the throne. The human political corruption here is honestly presented as being just as ruthless as the literal monster out in the woods. Seeking answers, Virendra heads back to the dark river, and the Yakshini reveals the tragic reason why her hypnotic, deadly gaze didn't kill him. Her power feeds on unchecked desire and vulnerability. But Virendra, he's completely immune. Why? Because his heart is entirely consumed by the love he still holds for his dead queen. It creates this fascinating dynamic where his profound grief is, weirdly enough, his supernatural armor. Okay, but how does a woman become this kind of creature? Let's look at the timeline. When Virenda asks for her real name, the forest actually reacts violently, but she tells him Mrinalini. Centuries ago, she wasn't a demon at all. She was a stunning temple dancer. She fell in love with a powerful ruler named King Aditiraj. But when the priests strictly forbade their marriage, Aditiraj performed this dark, forbidden ritual involving human sacrifice to force the gods to give them immortality. While the gods were enraged, Aditiraj burned alive, and Mrinalini was cursed to become the soul-eating Yakshini. And this is absolutely crucial. Notice the devastating contrast between the two kings here. Adityaraj's love was completely selfish. He literally slaughtered innocent villagers for his own desire to keep her forever, which ultimately doomed her. Virendra's love, on the other hand, is entirely selfless. He's not trying to conquer death or force the gods to do anything. He is just willing to let the gods curse his own soul just to stand beside her. Following all this, the two actually form this incredibly unlikely bond. Over weeks of secret nightly visits, the terrifying monster slowly begins to smile again when she's with the king. They share this brief, hidden peace among the ancient ruins, waterfalls, and floating fireflies. It's a beautiful, quiet moment of humanity for a creature that hasn't felt even slightly human in centuries. But as you can probably guess, in a story like this, peace is incredibly fragile. Dark forces back at the palace are definitely watching. So, discovering that the Yakshini is actively protecting the king, Prime Minister Rudrasen realizes his whole treasonous plot is about to be exposed. To protect his secrets, he sets a ruthless tactical plan into motion.
First, he enlists a chained black magician. Second, he gets his hands on a silver dagger coated in sacred ash, which is basically the mythological kryptonite for mortals in this universe. Then, the ambush. His goal? Destroy the immortal and the king together in one swift strike.
Totally ignorant of this impending attack, Virendra and Mrinalini are sitting underneath a banyan tree. When Virendra asks why she cries when she looks at him, Mrinalini confesses her absolute deepest fear. Virendra reminds her of Aditya Raj. He has that same stubborn heart. She is literally terrified that history is repeating itself, that her curse will somehow destroy him, just like it destroyed the last king who loved her. And she confesses this right as the shadows betray them. Yeah, the sudden, violent ambush completely shatters the romance. A silver weapon coated in sacred ash flies out of the darkness and strikes the immortal Yakshini right in the chest. Rudrasen and his soldiers just swarm the forest. And this sacred weapon does exactly what normal steel can't. It immediately begins to rapidly drain the immortal life right out of Mrinalini. As her immortal body begins to fail and actually turn to ash, Virendra desperately holds her. In the absolute heat of the chaos, he screams that he loves her. But you gotta remember, for a creature who has been a hunted, soul-eating monster for centuries, a pure declaration of love is something her cursed existence simply cannot even process. Refusing to just sit there and let her die alone, Virendra makes this devastating vow. He looks up and challenges the heavens, declaring that if loving her is a curse, he totally welcomes it. It's the ultimate selfless act, contrasting so perfectly with Adidaj from all those centuries ago. And this powerful, sacrificial declaration, it triggers an explosive supernatural reaction from the cursed forest itself. I mean, the forest literally comes alive to defend them. In this fascinating twist of lore, hundreds of ancient shadows emerge. The souls of every single person Mrinalini has consumed over her centuries as a Yakshini rise from the mist. And instead of seeking vengeance against her, they act as this protective army, echoing the words, "Protect our queen." They just instantly drag the Prime Minister's soldiers screaming into the dark. It is this terrifying, awe-inspiring display of supernatural loyalty. The battle turns into an absolute massacre. The terrified Prime Minister, his entire army destroyed by spirits, is on his knees begging Virendra for his life. But Virendra, who is fully consumed by rage over the murder of his first queen and now the imminent death of Mrinalini, is just ice cold. He asks, did she receive mercy? Right before executing the traitor with a single, merciless slash. So the political threat is neutralized, sure, but the supernatural cost, that's already been paid. The battle is won, but the tragedy is totally sealed. That sacred ash has done its work, and Mrinalini begins to fade completely into silver light. As she dies in his arms, she leaves Virendra with this deeply profound realization about her curse. The cruelest part of immortality isn't living forever. It's finally finding love centuries later, only to realize your cursed nature means you've completely lost the ability to keep it. But before turning completely to ash, she makes a final pact. She binds her remaining soul to a black silver necklace. You see, the lore says the ancient curse weakens every 100 years, which opens up this tiny window for her return. Her final, breathless instruction to him before she vanishes is simple: find me again. And that sets the stage for a very long century of waiting. Fast forward 100 years later, the great King Virendra has long passed away, having lived out his days just ruling alone and waiting in that forest. But true to the lore, exactly a century later, a young reincarnated woman with silver hair enters the foggy, ruined woods of Viraksha. She has these missing memories, just sensing deep down that she has forgotten something incredibly important. Suddenly, a young warrior holding that exact same old silver necklace steps out from the trees. He tells her he found her first this time, and the exact second their eyes meet, centuries of cursed memories explode into her mind. The blood, the moonlight, the tragedy. When she tearfully asks who he is, he delivers this line, confirming that, yep, Virendra's soul has also reincarnated to fulfill their pact. So the cursed lovers finally embrace, completely defying time and death. It feels like this huge, triumphant, romantic victory. But, come on, in the ruined woods of Viraksha, happy endings are never that simple. As they hold each other, deep within the darkness, something ancient opens its eyes and smiles. The supernatural entities of the forest? Oh yeah, they are definitely still watching them.
They might have found each other across lifetimes, but the woods absolutely haven't forgotten them. So, I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. If a love story is powerful enough to survive a century-old curse, what terrifying price will the darkness demand in this new lifetime? When you cheat death and rewrite fate, who really collects the ultimate debt? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the shadows.